Hey, hi, and hello. It's Dr. O, your favorite virtual coach. Today, I want to talk with you about the inconvenient truth of high stakes testing. And I'm going to just jump right in. The inconvenient truth is that the results from high stake testing, they get to us too late. Too late for us to make any adjustments in our instructional practice. Too late for us to teach our students any new skills, too late to help the students who are sitting right in front of us right now. And yet, high stakes testing and standardized tests take up so much of our time and energy all year long, just for the results to come out well after our students have moved on. Now, since we can't change, right? We're not in the position of power to change high stakes testing and when they're scheduled and when we get our results back. I want us to focus on changing the assessment culture in your classroom because the assessment culture in your classroom can help your students to think of high stakes testing as just another day, can help you utilize the test taking season in a way that doesn't lead to boredom or burnout. So let's continue. And first, I want to share my rookie mistake as it relates to assessments. Now, this took place before I shifted my mindset around the purpose of assessments. And so here we go. Early in my teaching career, I thought of assessments as a time where I got to take a mental health break, literally, right? So I would give assessments on Fridays, and in the first school that I started working, we had 80-minute class periods, okay? And so for 80 minutes, my students were expected to sit and test for the entire time, right? Just just sit and take this test. So, what did that mean? Well, that meant that I needed to create an assessment that would take them 80 minutes to complete. Okay, let's call it 70 minutes because, of course, we had our routine of how to walk into the classroom. We had to put our things away. We did maybe a little mini lesson or review, and then we wrapped up at the end. But let's be clear, the expectation is that students were sitting silently working on this assessment from the bell that started class to the bell that ended class. What do you imagine happened? Just think for a second. What do you think was the fallout of trying to administer an 80-minute test? Let me tell you. Number one, I created a hostile testing environment, classroom environment. My students always exasperated. Is that the right word? They always had big feelings about these packets that I would hand them. There was eye rolling. There were some students who just opted out. Then I created the problem of grading overload. Because if I'm creating an assessment that lasts the entire class period, we're talking, I'm creating a packet of assessment questions. I was a rookie. I didn't realize. I didn't realize that this, let's call it a 6 or 7 page document that I spent hours at the photocopier, always after school, lesson at my colleagues watch me making all these packets and wonder what I was getting myself into. So I would spend all this time after school creating these packets, only to place them in front of my students and have my students balk at them like, Miss, really? All of this? And then I wasn't even getting the data that I needed, in part because I didn't have the capacity to grade, let's see, on average, 75 students, right? 75 students, 6 page packets. I didn't have the capacity. But rookie mistake number what are we on now? Number 3 or 4. Next rookie mistake was that I thought I could outsource grading to my students in the classroom, right? So imagine this. I would have my students complete their packet, And then I would give them a lined piece of paper, or when I got more advanced, I would create an answer sheet, which was a slip of paper numbered from 1 to whoever knows how many, probably 40 or 50 questions. And I would ask them to transfer their answers from their packet onto this slip of paper. I would then have everybody, because they were finishing, most of them were finishing because they were just writing random answers down or leaving things blank, but I would have everybody put their material, their testing materials away, take out a colorful marker to grade in, but no red, because I'm not a monster, right? And let's score these slips of papers that have answers on them. And that was the data that I got. I got scores, scores that said how many correct out of how many wrong. But I didn't get information. And so it did take me a while because I looked forward to my mental health breaks on Fridays. It did take me a while to realize that I didn't actually understand the purpose of assessments. Pro tip, assessments are not for mental health breaks for teachers. It turns out assessments are for me to gather information in order to make adjustments. Hence why the high stakes testing culture does not work, at least not in where I'm from, okay, where the assessment is given now, March, April, May, but we don't get the results until about November, that they're literally held in embargo and the data can't be shared with anybody outside of the school, including parents, right? That's too late for us to do anything with the data, okay? But in your classroom, that's not the case. When you administer an assessment in your classroom, whether that be a do now, an exit ticket, a quiz, a unit test, and all the other assessments that you might be thinking of administering in your classroom, it's to collect data on what your students have learned and now understand and can do. So that means on the day of the assessment, you should have already pre-identified what is it my students need to know and be able to do. And that comes directly from your curriculum. Most of us are using high quality curriculum, right? That has been identified by our school districts and our school leaders as high quality. So we don't need to rethink this. We don't need to reinvent any wheels here. Due to our extensive lesson planning, we are lesson planning. I know we are. Okay, so due to our lesson planning, we already know what those learning objectives are. They're written in the curriculum. So all we're needing to do is to find the assessment questions that are aligned with those grade level standards, right from the curriculum, right from the unit. Okay, now here's what I learned to do. I learned that, well, since assessments are just for me to gather data so that I can adjust my instructional practices, right? There's an adjustment that I need to make. That's how I'm always looking at data. There might be something I need to reteach, or I might need to pull a small group of students to go over some things, right? To really unpack some misconceptions. That's the purpose of assessments in my classroom. So once I made that mindset shift, it was a matter of now realizing I don't need a packet. I'm not going to be able to take a mental health break every Friday because it's more important that I gather data to help my students move the needle, to help them make progress on their learning journey. So that meant I actually only needed for an exit ticket or a Friday quiz, I only needed about 3, maybe 10 questions max if it's a unit test. And so here are the shifts I made. For an exit ticket, which I started to do every single day, for an exit ticket, 2 to 3 questions max. Those 2 to 3 questions were closely aligned with the learning objective for the day. 2 or 3 questions is all I needed. Maybe there were 2 short answers. Oh, the balloons. Ignore the balloons, y'all. We haven't reached the point of celebration yet. Except if you're still here, yes, let's celebrate. Thank you for sticking through this, right? Thank you for still being here with me, learning with me, and definitely leave a comment in the comment section if you have something's coming up for you, something's resonating. Leave a comment. Let me know if you're enjoying this video. Okay, again, back to the exit ticket. Daily exit tickets that are closely aligned with the learning objective for that day's lesson. right? You can probably find them in the supplementals in your curriculum, the extra questions. Maybe it was a question within the classwork that you didn't get to. Maybe it was a homework question that you want to revisit. Those are the questions that I used. I did not go scouring the Google looking for questions. Again, sometimes they were too short answer questions because I can quickly see students' work, see if they got the answer right or wrong, or if the answer is wrong, I can see where that mistake happened, right? Sometimes it was a multiple choice and a short answer, and sometimes it was more of a constructed response. Whatever the thing is, whatever the questions are, I only gave my students about 5 to 7 minutes to answer these questions. That's why I limit my exit tickets to 2 or 3 questions, typically just 2. Now, for my unit test or for my quizzes, I might have more questions. So, for example, my quiz might be 5 questions. Maybe there are 2 multiple choice, 2 short answer, and 1 constructive response. And since it's a quiz, students probably have 10 to 15, no more than 20 minutes to complete the quiz. And then for my unit test, again, students might have a longer amount of time, maybe 30 minutes, but I am still only administering 7 to 10 questions. And usually I'm more on the 7 side because even 10 questions for 75 students is a lot. But now I looked forward to grading because I was actually gathering information that would inform my instruction, inform how well I taught, inform what I needed to reteach, inform who I need to pull in order to support them in their learning journey. The other thing that I was doing, that 80-minute assessment, the data that I was getting really spoke to students being bored or angry with me. That's what the data suggested. It wasn't about my instruction. Okay, maybe it was about my instructional decisions, right? So once I made that mindset shift about assessments, the whole game changed. I look forward to looking at the exit tickets. Who's got it? Who doesn't got it? Who got it? Who don't got it? That's really my system. The pile is quick. It's quick. And then I use that information to figure out what I'm doing the next day. How much time do I need to spend on reteaching? Who do I need to pull for a small group? Okay. The same thing with my quizzes and my unit tests. Quick assessments, right? These quick assessments allows me to quickly analyze the data and make a decision about what I'm going to do next. This also changed the culture in my classroom around assessments because students also look forward to these assessments now because they're getting feedback about what they know and understand. Imagine at the end of class when students know they're going to be assessed and it's only going to be 2 questions, either they got it or they don't got it, right? They're going to get it done. They're going to probably even pay more attention in class because they know that they're going to be assessed. So there goes an engagement strategy for you. Okay. Same thing with the quizzes and the unit tests. Students actually look forward to getting feedback about what they know and understand, what they can do better. It's when we are, one, not giving them feedback because we're not grading the thing. We're not giving it back to them in a timely fashion, right? And things then become pointless. Like, why did I spend time on that homework, on that classwork, on these assessments if I'm never going to get feedback about it? The other thing is how we talk about the information. It's not, oh, you got a 0. It's, oh, you don't know the information as well as you need to in order to pass this assessment that's closely aligned to the grade level learning that you need to attain, right? These are the conversations. So what are we going to do about it? It gives us actionable feedback. And that's the most significant thing about the mindset shift that I made as it relates to assessments. Okay. Now, this did bring up a challenge, and I want to be completely transparent about this. So, no more mental health breaks on Fridays or assessment days because students are going to finish before that next bell, right? Yeah. So, what did that mean? That mean I needed to plan for it. Plan for it. I mean, that's what we're doing all the time, anyways. So we plan for it. We say, okay, this exit ticket, we can scratch that because it's always the last 3 to 5 minutes of class, 5 to 7 or 3 to 5, whatever, the last few minutes of class, anyways. So students are handing you their completed exit ticket on the way out the door. But what about those quizzes and unit assessments? 5 questions for the quizzes, maybe 10 questions for the unit assessment, 20 to 30 minutes. Your class is probably 45 minutes, 60 minutes, maybe longer. There's going to be time left over. So what do? You plan for it. My go-tos on those days have always been stations. I want students to have an opportunity to make up work. I want to have an opportunity to work with students in a small group because by the time you get to the end of a week's worth of lessons, you know who needs the support. So that extra time allowed me to work with students. And on occasion, I would also allow students to do some independent reading or mandalas, like those cool coloring pages. I'm actually a huge fan of Monday Mandala. Google it and thank me later. Okay. So there are some things that you can do. The most important thing is to anticipate, that is to know students are going to finish early and they're going to finish early at different rates of time, right? So no, by this time in the school year, by October of every school year, you should already know who is going to be a fast finisher. As you get into your units, some students are stronger in one unit than another unit. So again, you already have a sense of who's going to get through an assessment quickly and correctly in advance, right? So now all you have to do is plan for it. And I want to make a special note. Part of your planning is letting your students know what the expectation is when they complete their assessment. For me, it was when you finish, you must look over your answers and make sure you have answered all of the questions, right? Answer all of what you were asked to do because some questions have multiple parts. Make sure your name is on the paper if it's a paper and pencil test, right? Things like that. Make sure you look over your test before you turn it in. Then transition, that's a word, transition into something quickly and quietly. So if they have the choice of independent reading because they don't have any makeup work, then that's what they're transitioning into. My only caveat, a little dark. My only caveat is I did not allow students to take a nap in my classroom because I'm not a nurse. I don't know when a student is sleeping versus when they're unconscious. And unfortunately, I do know of a story, didn't happen in my classroom or even when I was at the school at the time, but I do know of a story of a student who was thought to be napping and was actually unconscious. They lived to see another day, but that's not the point. That's scary, okay, and unnecessary. So when you're in school, you're not napping. And if you need to take a nap, you're going to the nurse because I am not a nurse. That's just my protocol for my classroom. You decide for yourself. Well, listen, we have reached the end of this video, right? The inconvenient truth of high stakes testing is that we do not get the results early enough for us to do anything meaningful with it. There's still some things we can do. I'll, go over that in a future video, and I've definitely already blogged about it. But for the students who are sitting right in front of us, high stakes testing is not helpful. What is helpful is being purposeful about the assessments that you're administering in your classroom so that you can use that data to, one, get information that will help you make those necessary adjustments so that students are learning as much as they can, right? And two, you shift the culture in your classroom around assessments. So even on those high stakes testing days, students are like, oh, I do this. I'm just here to show what I know. That's the culture you want in your classroom. That when it comes time for high stakes testing, you're not scrambling around trying to finish stuffing things down students' throats, recovering information versus teaching it, and that your students are not feeling anxiety, right? They're not feeling overwhelmed and anxious about this high stakes test that typically doesn't go well under those conditions. You want them to go into your test or into these high stakes tests confident and sure of their ability to do their very best work. And at the end of the day, know that it's just information, right? Well, I hope that you have gotten as much value from this video as I got from creating this video. I would love if you would leave a comment in the comment section. I would love if you would like this video and share it with a hardworking teacher friend of yours who you know will also find value. And if you have not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. and hit the notification bell because these videos are coming out fast and furious, and I don't want you to miss anything. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wait, I almost forgot to mention, if you enjoy this content, please know that the Academy is going to be facilitating a one-year residency starting in this August, okay? August 2025, we are hosting a one-year residency. One-year residency is going to cover everything that takes place in the life of a teacher. It's my way of helping, especially our early career teachers, close the gap between theory and application. Because let's face it, there are some curriculums and some experiences that we had in our practicum that are just not jiving in the real world. Okay, so we need to close that gap, especially since not all of us are getting the mentorship or the coaching that we need as we go into these real classrooms. So check the description if you're interested. I have a link to the waitlist for that, as well as some other goodies like the link to my blog. And that will be all for today, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.